Okay guys, so I'm gonna add on to the video that I started answering in the Q&As. It was about what to do how do you stop your puppy from jumping on you? And I started to answer the question by stating that first thing would be to put a leash on your dog so this way you have ultimate control over their movements. And then this got me thinking about some other things that it's important to talk about leveraging like these small moments, because when we first get a puppy or a new dog, the tendency is to want to build the relationship, get the dog to trust us because we want them to like us, and we think that trust will develop if we lavish them with love and affection. But the reality is that a lot of these dogs wind up back in shelters and develop these behavioral issues because we're not introducing structure, rules, and boundaries, right? And that's actually, in fact, how we develop a relationship with them, is through respect, by showing stability. It's not through, we get behaviors we don't want through over affection and too much freedom too fast, too soon. So what I really wanted to talk about in this is the importance, again, about structure and limits and boundaries. How you live with your dog is the most important piece. Being able to leverage small moments, not letting your dog blow out of the crate, not letting them whine in the crate, not letting them parkour off the furniture, working on developing your relationship and establishing who's the leader and that your dog is the follower. Really holding them accountable to understanding like what's acceptable and what's not, working on polite behaviors. If you're not setting limits and allowing too much freedom before they're trustworthy, that's going to lead into other problematic behaviors that could develop into something far worse than, your puppy jumping on you and just displaying like bratty behaviors. That can easily segue into something like resource guarding, whether that's a sock or, a chew toy, or they start guarding you and a dog is walking down the street. Like, these are things that can be avoided if the foundation is set early in at the beginning. The truth of the matter is, what you don't say no to, you are in fact saying yes to with your dog. Okay? And again, that goes to, it's so important. We put the leash on the dog, that's your translator and your GPS unit. It's so important. Most people get rid of the leash way too quickly, and that's a mistake. Okay? When you're working on building a foundation, or trying to teach your puppy or your adult dog some of the foundational obedience behaviors, we put those in place so that we have a means to communicate with them, so that we can establish boundaries, rules, and limitations, so that they can safely navigate successfully with us in this life. Okay? So introduce your dog to leash pressure. Don't let them pull you down the street. If you're allowing them to zigzag in front of you and put their nose to the ground and to sniff and bark and lunge and hit the end of the leash, you're not walking your dog is walking you. Okay? So teach your dog leash pressure. Make sure that's clarified. If you need to have your dog on leash while you're home so that you have ultimate control over all of their movements for a while, then I strongly recommend doing that. And as they start demonstrating polite behaviors and things are becoming more manageable and they're demonstrating reliability with polite behaviors, then you can begin to look at laxing that structure. But ultimately, if we're not teaching our dogs how to relax and to turn off that energy, right? Like, there's a time and a place for them to play and let loose. But even in playtime, if you don't get strategic about how you interact with your dog, it's going to cause a lot more problems than most people are ready to handle. So it's really important from the very beginning, and it's never too late to jump in and do this, to begin to correct some mistakes that were made. Teaching your dog how to relax, teaching your dog that you're in charge, and, training fairly but holding them accountable. When we don't ask them for their best, they're going to give us shit. They're going to give us what they think is appropriate for the situation. Okay, so work on thinking about what it looks like to cultivate being a leader, right? And the mindset for that. Ultimately, that's what's going to pay off in the end, is becoming the leader that is worth following.